Warning, this video was made with the assumption that you watch my other how-to videos if you are newer to debating. Meaning that if you are newer to debating and that you never seen my other videos yet, go watch them, because if you were to watch this now, it would be very confusing if you don't know what fallacies and other terms are, specifically for my fictional fans. A quick warning before you watch this video, so just listen to what I said. Hey guys, nothing important here, and today we're making a video on debate tips. 2 how-tos in 1 week and a power scale? What's this bullshit? What have you been smoking? I won't answer that. Anyway, so, to be clear, right, and this is going to be a quick disclaimer, this is a video on debate tips. Meaning that a lot of people will learn and will grow in different ways and at different rates. Meaning that someone might grow slower or someone might grow faster in a different way from someone else. This video is just to try to make it as easy as possible on everyone while giving a more semi-advanced type of how-to video to see if it can help everyone. This means that this isn't an objective video and will simply be in the form of tips that you can maybe use as a reference point to see if you can use them to help improve yourself. If not, I'm sorry, the video is not for you. However, other people on YouTube might make something that is to more of your liking, so feel free to watch them if you believe this does not help. Anyway, so let's go ahead and move on with the video. Okay, so debate tip number 1. Always, first and foremost, acknowledge your strengths and acknowledge your weaknesses. I'll even use myself as an example. Regarding comic scaling, I suck at comic scaling. Like, Marvel, DC, and Image Comics, I fucking suck at scaling comics, right? This is why I have comic scalers on whenever I make comic-related content. The only real thing that I actually know how to scale comic-wise, at least more recently, within the last couple months, would be like live-action, horror movie character comics that I've had to read in order to learn their arguments for canonicity or just non-canonicity. Those are like the only comics I know how to scale and actually have read, right? And besides that, I have not read Transformer comics in a very long time, so I would not include them as a weak or a strong topic, as that is a very outdated topic compared to what I do right now. So, I am very bad at comic scaling. At least right now. I can always change that, but I'm just not just yet, because I don't feel like reading comics just yet. Weakness number 2. I am not the most informed in the entire world when it comes to a lot of outer-versal fictional verses. Now, I consider this a weakness because I have to talk about outer-versal and how it works sometimes, and I only really have one outer-versal verse that I scale. So, while I'm not going to actively try to learn outer-versal verses, maybe Umineko and Destiny would be the only two I'd either need or actually desire to scale in terms of an outer-versal verse. As for strengths, I'd say I'm more open-minded. I listen before I speak. I try to be humble. And I try to be as credible as possible, as in I try to back up what I say. And that I try to make content for everyone, meaning that I try to be a gamer, and I try to be a debater/scaler, and I try to more or less just keep a chill environment, right? Those are some strengths and some weaknesses I got. I could go over more stuff, but this video isn't about me. But just use something like that as an example, Not everyone's going to have the same strengths or the same weaknesses, but it's best to acknowledge yours. Whether you're a confident or more reserved person, it's always good to do that at the end of the day, because it means you're getting somewhere and you know how to actually start helping yourself before you could actually, actually be fucking productive. So, anyway, that's tip number 1. Let's go ahead and move on to tip number 2. So for tip number 2, this is something I more or less recommend rather than actually assign. If I were to actually assign someone quote-unquote scaling homework or debate homework, whatever people are saying nowadays, I don't know, I'm a fucking fictional debating dinosaur. I I definitely would recommend reading logic or philosophy, or actually both. If you want to get a grasp on how to debate, you should probably read into the debate topic. Like, say, like maybe some propositional logic, maybe some basic philosophy, something to help you get started, at least on how to conceptualize and how to actually perform in a debate, or how to debate. Meaning that you could use philosophy and logic as a way to say interpret what you know in a more efficient and more respectful manner, or you could just read it so that you might know how to actually step into a debate or know how a debate's supposed to go. Like, say you read into philosophy, and then based off what you read in philosophy, when you see two people just spurging out on each other and just going between points, then you notice, hey, they're not really doing what they're kind of supposed to in a debate, right? Or maybe you want to read it so that you can actually know how to more efficiently debate yourself. Like, how to recognize when you're going between points rather than going point by point. Or how to make someone acknowledge the point that you're making, or how to acknowledge that you've more or less defended or you've lost a point. This is something I would heavily recommend, although you don't have to, right? I cannot control what you read or what you do or don't do. This would be something I would purely recommend, because this would have to be something you'd have to do eventually. So yeah, that's in a nutshell tip number 2. Just please read into some logic and philosophy, because you'll be doing yourself and everyone else a favor when you either debate or when you judge a debate. Anyway, that's tip number 2. Let's go ahead and move on to tip number 3. Debate tip number 3. Always have an open mind when talking to someone. This is something you need to have for when you're not debating, for when you are debating, or if you're just talking to normal people in society who are even related to debate topics whatsoever, be it fictional or IRL. A lot of people will have beliefs which are basically foundations, and that these beliefs will stem from experiences and or what they feel indoctrinated to feel because of other people, be it older people trying to tell them what's right and what's wrong, or just peer pressure in general making someone do something that they believe is cool or that they believe is the right thing to do because a lot of people do it, right? Always keep that in mind when you're talking to someone, right? Here is an example for you fictional debaters. Let's take the word omnipotence real quick. A lot of characters are stated to be omnipotent. Like Alien X, fucking Odin, Galactus, etc., right? Now, saying that those characters are omnipotent aren't inherently wrong, as the word could either just mean a lot of power or a lot of knowledge, or maybe both, right? Or maybe there might be some other character who might be stated to be omnipotent because they're the strongest or, say, the smartest in the entire verse, right? So it's not necessarily wrong to say the word omnipotent. However, when you think that character is just blatantly unbeatable, or has no limits whatsoever, right? Or is just beyond the concept of everything, there might be contention with that. For example, again, characters being stated to be omnipotent, what I've said before, when they might have taken losses before, or if they might have a particular limitation to them. Also, they're bound by fiction. Every omnipotent, quote-unquote, fictional character is all bound by fiction, so they're not really omnipotent whatsoever. So that would be an example with the word omnipotence for you fictional debaters. Just listen to what they mean by omnipotent, and then after that, speak what's on your mind, and then try to give an answer appropriate to what they're saying. Now, for you IRL, non-fictional, discussers or debaters, in practical ethics, there are 2 types of mentalities, right? There's a deontological mentality where someone adopts, the mentality of, you derive, say, morals off rules, right, or obligations. Or you have someone who might adopt something, say, more utilitarian, where they might adopt beliefs, or they might adopt, morals of what they believe is useful or what can be applied in a society, right? these two types of mentalities are very popular to discuss in practical ethics, and a lot of people will have differing mentalities, or would just either be deontological or would just be utilitarian, right? Be open-minded if someone has a more rule-based mentality, like, say, deontology, or if someone has more of a utility-based mentality, like, say, utilitarianism, right? People have different mentalities, and it's important that you respect these mentalities, even if you disagree with them. Because at the end of the day, these are beliefs that people will uphold. Of course, don't, agree to some crazy shit like killing innocent kids or whatever. You get the point by now. I'm not gonna, try to drive it home when I already did. So, just keep in mind for, number 3 that it's definitely good in order to, have an open mind to be more productive when talking to people. Debate tip number 4, which this one is probably more or less a rule, I'd say. Always read up on your fallacies. One of the most common mistakes that people will make is that they will just hop either in the IRL or fictional community. If you're in the fictional community, someone might just go and take a verse that they might like and will try to scale it, but they won't read up on fallacies and will make a lot of mistakes during a debate when they have to defend something along the lines of, say, a counter argument or a point that they're trying to make. Or if in the IRL community, you'll just take what other people say and then you'll just say, well, because he said it, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you might be someone else who might just join the community and will just hop into a debate where you just read a little up on, say, I don't know, utilitarianism, or maybe deontology, or maybe if you're hopping into science, you'll just read a little on science, etc., etc. There's a lot of those people. But what they all do, and this is a common mistake that they all make, they won't read up enough on fallacies. Now, I'm not saying every person does this, but a lot of novice level debaters will do this, right? A lot of novice level discussers or debaters will not read up enough on fallacies to understand that something might follow something along the lines of a fallacious term and in a fallacious nature. For example, in, say, morality, you might appeal to nature as being good. For example, you might appeal to disease being natural, so therefore it's good or bad, right? That's a very common mistake and one of the first fallacies you should read up if you're going to debate morality. Or maybe if you're in the fictional community, right, you might misinterpret what the word transcendence means. For example, the word transcend might be an infinite, or it might be inaccessible transcendence. Might not always be an outer versal, or it might not always be a dimensional transcendence, right? So, fallacious thinking doesn't always have to have a term attached to it, but a fallacy in of itself is a term that someone can easily call out if they themselves are making the specified term fallacy, right? Again, if, say, they're appealing to reality to try to limit fiction, obviously that's fallacious because fiction has its own set of rules, so you can't just apply everything in reality to fiction, as we more or less take what is more or less logical in reality, for example, a dimensional tiering system, but we actually use the terms right, or we use what the word transcendence actually means, say, where you more or less raise to an upper echelon of power, or maybe you gain a certain ability, etc., etc., where we more or less take logic and then we try to apply it to fiction in a way that doesn't try to limit it, but rather we use it to extrapolate fiction, right? So that would be debate tip number 4. Just always read into fallacies so that you can avoid making mistakes. Because while you're not always going to be the most confident and outspoken, one of the things you should definitely try to do the most is to not make fallacies. So, there you go. Anyway, let's move on to tip number 5, and probably the last one. Debate tip number 5. Besides making sure to back up what you claim, make sure to fact check what you claim, right? In the form of, say, another person, or just make sure to check the credibility of your evidence, or have someone else do it. So, for example, before I make a video, I always have someone go through and fact check what I argue, or like what I'm trying to see, is at what level, right? This is because someone else with maybe a fresh pair of eyes or has a different point of view can point out things that maybe I haven't noticed initially. So I make sure to have other people do it purely so that I can avoid making as many mistakes as possible, right? Because remember, I have one type of mentality, someone else might have a different type of a mentality, right? Or they might have a different point of view. So maybe they might call things out that they view as mistakes, so that maybe I could say address those mistakes so that I can maybe reform what I'm trying to argue or reform the point I'm trying to make so that it can be as objective or at least as credible as possible. Because whenever I want to make content or whenever I want to fact check my evidence, I want to make sure I'm not wrong when I use that piece of evidence, besides me wanting to back up, with what I argue. But I want to make sure what I argue with will actually hold up under scrutiny. This is something I definitely recommend that a lot of people do. Fact checking is done all the time in science. Whenever scientists would do things along the lines of experiments, people will maybe fact check claims being made. This is very common when the media tries to fact check, politics. Like, say, Trump said a few things wrong a while back, but I won't say what they are to avoid being political. But one of the things that was said was that inject bleach into your veins, and like cure yourself of like the China virus or whatever, right? Now, we're going to avoid being political after this, but basically, a lot of people, and especially medical experts, said no, that is not something you should do. You could very well die, if not definitely die from something like that, right? Or maybe something else that might not hold up under scrutiny would be something someone would fact check. You'd reform what you were trying to argue or what you were trying to state before so that it is something you'd hold up under scrutiny. So, this is definitely like something I want all of you to do, right? I want all of you to have someone else fact check your evidence whenever you gather your evidence, so that you can be sure that what evidence you grab will hold up under scrutiny and will be just fine to use. This is definitely like either the second most important or the most important, right? So, anyway, with that out of the way, these are all the debate tips I would give in this video. So, let's go ahead and move on to the conclusion. So, yeah. If someone were to come up to me and ask me what are 5 debate tips you think would be important to give, this video would be your answer to that. So, there you go. Anyway, so if you guys liked the video, and if you want me to make more successful content, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. And also, 50% of you and more are not subscribed to my channel. So, if you want to get my content when it comes out, please give me a subscription. If you want to get a notification of when my content comes out, please hit that notification bell. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. My name is Nothing Important here, and I hope you all have a good day. Ciao. See y'all later. Bye.